All right, Shalom. I want to start by giving our praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who teach and rule well, and also to their elders, the men that taught them. I pray the Lord have peace, blessings, and mercy upon the households of the hopefully elect. This is the brother Shema One from the Great Millstone Houston Church, and I want to come to the lesson today. Came across this video where it just shows you the mindset, the morals, and just the condition of the people on the earth today. Just a small example of where many are, though. Due to the the attraction to death rather than life. You know, and it's beautiful because the same things that the majority of these people who are without the love of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah and who are without faith in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah, they they're gonna receive they're gonna receive what they entertain. And a lot of people entertain death and they're gonna get what they've been asking for. Wherein, the video I plays it shows you people care more about animals than, the regard for human life. And guess what? The Lord showed an example of that in the book of Genesis during the times of Noah, where it tells you the only ones who were saved whenever the flood came, whenever the destruction came, was Noah and those that were with Noah. All right. 8 human souls and many animals. All right. So the Lord spared more animals than he did people at one time. So laugh at that. All right. And according to the scriptures, a lot of people on this earth were created in vain. All right. So someone who thinks their life is so important, but lives wickedly, doesn't acknowledge Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai at all, and want to have the audacity, to speak, you know, on the behalf of life and death. That's you know, anyway. Judgment is coming to this place and to the unfaithful, you know. Those who entertain death, they're gonna find it. But I just want to play this just to show you the condition of where the world is. And according to prophecy, times are going to get more evil. So what do you think the what do you think, or how do you think that's going to display on this earth when it comes to how people are going to regard one another? Who you call a friend today, or who your favorite family member is, or those relationships, how they are today. Now the days are coming where, just like this video shows you, these people don't have a regard for human life. It's going to be, shown and displayed through people who are in your personal life. A lot of people are finna find that out the hard way. All right. But let me play this and I'll get a few precepts, and I pray this lesson be edifying to the Lord's elect. 1 second.
You have to admit, this is wild.
Week before the puppy is born, they're literally ripping apart the puppy in the mother's womb, limb by limb, suctioning out the brain of the puppy. They should protect all puppies, even starting in the womb, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're actually doing the same exact thing to human beings. Actually, what they're doing is, this was the abortion center in DC. That was a Harriet right there. She was actually 30 weeks old. So just like with puppies, they're actually taking human beings, they're ripping them apart in the womb. So there's just a petition to sign for saving babies as well.
Yeah, I'm okay with this. Thank you.
You're okay with, you mean you're not signing it for the babies?
Just puppies.
Thank you.
Are babies less important than puppies?
The puppies are cute. Now
I'll play the beginning of this other one.
My wife.
They're taking baby
With puppy. And one of the more interesting petitions we had college students sign, we described exactly what abortion is, except for we changed out the word baby with puppy. And their reactions will speak a lot of the current culture in our college campuses and how manipulated we have all been concerning the truth about abortion. Would you guys be down to just sign a petition for puppies? They're euthanizing them at the local shelter because they're at capacity. And so we're just gathering a quick signature. Just what they're doing is they're taking these puppies a week before they're born and they're poisoning the mother and then ripping the puppies apart limb by limb. And they're at capacity at the local shelter. And so we're just signing a petition. Yeah, how does that make you feel?
Obviously not very good. So.
Yeah, and then what we're doing, yeah, we just need a quick signature. You don't even need to write your name if you don't want. But these puppies deserve to be protected, whether they're an inconvenience or not. And then finally, we just have one more photo to show you. So my friend AJ Hurley was at a local center in Washington D.C. and what they're doing at the surgical center is they're taking babies. And what they're doing is just like with the puppies, they kill the puppies apart in the womb, and then they kill the babies as well. Thanks, guys. Do you care about babies as well? Will you sign the petition for babies? Would you be willing to help us sign a petition to save puppies?
I'm gonna stop right there. But just looking at that, imagine how it's gonna be, in the latter times whenever the love of many are gonna wax cold, like the scriptures tell you. Let me grab that. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 12. It says, in Yahushua speaking, it says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And just looking at a reflection of the video, the fact that they're even talking about abortions. Why? Because look who's ruling the earth, Esau. Okay, the man who has control over the earth right now allows iniquity to abound. All right, the fact where that's even a discussion about abortions. All right, then now look at the mind and the heart of the people. No regard for human life. And that's just one aspect. But man, this shit is getting to the point of it's just sick. It's just sick to continue to witness how evil and how horrible times are, where these people are able to continue to go on their day to day. Nah, man, the Lord is gonna do something. Judgment is following. All right. It says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold, and that word cold goes into psycho. All right. To be made or grow cool or cold. It says of waning love, decrease. All right, where your cares are not gonna be so, sympathetic and empathetic, for a loved one or a friend. Matter of fact, the scriptures tell you that. Hold up. Let's go there real quick. Let me read that in the GNT though. For the second Esdras. Second Esdras chapter 8. And I'm gonna jump in here. Start at the top, then I'll jump down. So understanding this is what's coming in, in this generation. This is coming in our times. Second Esdras chapter 8 in verse 1 in the GNT, it says, the angel replied, Most High God made this world, Salakia. Most High God made this world for many people, but the future world for only a few. All right. Hold up. Salakia. This isn't what I want, but still touching on an important point. This world is created for many, but the world to come for few. Not everybody's gonna make it. The majority of people are not gonna make it. What is it that I'm looking for? Second Esdras, the 5th chapter, I believe. Second Esdras 5 and 1. Let's see. All right, Khan, this is it. So Second Esdras chapter 5 and 1. It says, but these are the signs The time will come when all people on the earth will be in grip of great confusion. The way of truth will be hidden, and no faith will be left in the land. And that's the times we're coming. Look at look at the events that are taking place. Hey, the famine of the word has to take place. All right, all of this censorship, all of this surveillance, just the tight grips, you know, on how things are moving. We're in what is that? Making a man an offender for a word. Isaiah, what is that? Isaiah 29:20. Roughly paraphrasing. Let me pull it up. Let me fact check that. But due to that taking place, guess what? The way of truth is going to be hidden. Ain't no access to it of hearing the word. But hold on 1 second. Let me pull this up in Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 29. Hold up. I'll start at verse 20. Isaiah 29:20. It says, for the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. And that's how it's gonna be. Those that are against the truth, those that are against Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah and that oppose this truth have no chance of victory. Those that scorn and mock and scoff have no chance of victory. Judgment is attached to your future to be consumed. All right. Then it says, and all of them that watch for iniquity are cut off. Yeah, the ones that allow iniquity to abound and increase. Esau, Edom. And guess what? The Israelites who partake in that, they're gonna get judged too. Who love the ways and the course of this world where you actually find a comfort here in such a place where iniquity is abounding. All right. So that's gonna be taken care of. Verse 21. But before that takes place, it says that a man might make, it says that make a man an offender for a word and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. So making a man an offender for a word, what we are out here prophesying and preaching, reading the scriptures from the Bible that one day is going to be twisted and turned to demonize us. All right. Just like they did Yahweh, just like, the prophets got dealt with, from the beginning of time. All right. This world has a problem with the words of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah when he puts his words into the mouth of his prophets. All right. So they're going to make us an offender for a word. What we say, they're going to have things set up where, we could be demonized for it. And Yahweh Shah told us these things that they were going to happen, and we should not get offended when they do. Because that's another check we could mark off a prophecy according to the last times before we get the hell up out of here. Then it says, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, the prophets who are out on the highways and the hedges prophesying against this place, preaching the good news to the nation of Israel. All right. It says, and turn aside the just for a thing or not, constantly twisting and perverting or trying to, what we teach. But let's jump down. Let's get to the point. No, let's keep reading. Or Salaki, let me jump back to Second Ezra, the 5th chapter. Going back on the computer. Second Ezra 5 in verse 2. It says, wickedness will increase until it has become worse than you have ever known it to be. That's the conditions that are going to be on this earth very soon. And also it tells you it's going to be a time like never before. It tells you that in Jeremiah 30:7, Jacob's trouble, also in Daniel, the 12th chapter. So all of these things taking place is going to be very dangerous and perilous times. Wickedness will increase. Say the ways of the Lord are not going to be, on broad stream. All right. That the ways of the Lord are not going to be kept and pushed. Even just how people, handle themselves now. That's finna be done. All morals, self-control, all of that is done. It says wickedness will increase until it has become worse than you have ever known it to be. The people are going to be out here crazy. It says, verse 3, the country that you now see ruling the world will lie in ruins, with no inhabitant or traveler there. And that's that's fitting for America, Babylon the Great, according to prophecy. The only place that is going to be completely destroyed and never inhabited again. Humans will never dwell here again. Let's jump down to verse 9. Still hitting the point from what we read in Matthew 24 and 12. It says, verse 9, fresh water will become salty. Friends everywhere will attack one another. Then understanding will disappear and reason will go into hiding. So a lack of self-control, what once was ain't finna be. Friends everywhere will attack one another. Second Ezra, the 15th chapter tells you it's gonna be a lack of bread. It's finna be, an economic collapse. It's finna be so tight and so straight and so evil where people won't have, wisdom and knowledge to be their stability like it tells us in these scriptures, you know? But it says friends everywhere will attack one another. So imagine how it's gonna be if you're not friends, if you were enemies. It says then understanding will disappear and reason will go into hiding. You know, lack of self-control, lack of reasoning, not knowing what to do. Verse 10, it says, and they will not be found. It says, and they will not be found even though many may look for them. Everywhere on earth, wickedness and violence will increase. Hey, and during those times, the Lord's prophets are going to be the choice. People are going to, like it said, and they will not be found with the understanding, those who have understanding and those who have reason, who the prophets of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah, the faithful. So guess what? People are going to be looking and they won't find. All right. And they're just going to have to deal with the conditions of the earth being in wickedness and violence. All right. Those who like it here now, while the wicked are bearing rule, while evils are increasing, but the judgment hasn't hit home yet. They go have to lay in the bed that they made. All right, because right now people can have an opinion, but whenever these times come, ain't gonna be no opinions, man. It's gonna be people looking for answers, and they won't get them. Those who come against this truth. Verse 11, it says, one country will ask a neighboring country if justice or anyone who does right has come that way, but the answer will always be no. At that time, people will hope for much, but will get nothing. At that time, people will hope for much, but will get nothing. They will work hard, but will never succeed at anything because, matter of fact, let me let the scripture speak. It's going to be like that because right now, during the time of grace and mercy, where we receive benefits daily, people don't acknowledge Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah. While this truth is able to, to be heard, a lot of people put it off because it don't seem important. It doesn't seem like it's the most valuable thing on this earth today. But wait until the one bringing these evils and these dangers is the only one who's going to save and deliver those who stored up faithfulness and good works. That's coming. But let's go to 2nd Ezra 7. I'm going to stay in the GNT. 2nd Ezra 7 and verse 33. It says, God Most High, Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shah, will appear on his judgment seat. Mercy and patience will vanish completely. So guess what? That's over with. Hey, the doors of mercy, it's not going to be open forever. It says mercy and patience will vanish completely. It says, and be replaced by judgment. So it's going to be a time of judgment. Scriptures tell you the Lord is coming back to, judge according to every man's work, whether they be good or evil, what, we did in this flesh. Considering the ways of the Lord and trying to apply it and better ourselves, in truth and sincerity. But it says, so mercy and patience will vanish completely and be replaced by judgment. Truth and faithfulness will once again stand firm. The good and bad that people have done will be fully revealed, and reward and punishment will follow immediately. Man, that's the times that we're in. And whenever this is displayed, nobody's gonna have shit to say, because the Lord is gonna show you who serves him and who hasn't been. All right. It says the pit of torment, the fires of hell will appear in opposite them to paradise of joy and rest. Then Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, God Most High, will say to the nations that have been raised from the dead, look, I'm the one whom you have denied and refused to serve. It is my commands that you have rejected. Look around you. There is joy and peace in one direction, fire and torment in the other. That's what he will say to them on judgment day. So, like it tells you, the day of the Lord is going to be darkness and gloominess. It's not going to be peaceful. It's not going to be a peaceful time for everybody. Why? They the ones that deny and refuse to serve Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shah and reject his commands on judgment day. Whenever the time of judgment comes, it's not, it's going to be a different time. It's going to be a different type of experience. Just like whenever the flood came, it was a different time for those who, looked at Noah like he was crazy. But the days were coming, evils and the love of many are going to wax cold. And it's already here where people care more about damn animals, puppies, than humans. But I saw that clip and it just, brought a few precepts to mind. But I'll end it there. I pray this lesson was edifying to the Lord's elect. And Lord willing, until the next time I say shalom.